Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to be detailing a trip that me and my wife took to Phoenix, Arizona in January of this year. We rented a car and drove around most of Arizona and New Mexico over the course of 9 days. And as we were preparing for this trip, I was looking up YouTube videos to see what to do, where to go, other people who had done the same thing, but it was mainly just vloggers who were just talking into a camera in their car or a tourist trap or a diner and didn't really show anything relevant in terms of routes taken or spots that they hit. So I figured in this video I'd try to concisely summarize all the places that we went to over the course of the 9 days. And if you're taking a road trip in the same area, hopefully you find it helpful. Following I-17 north, we stayed in Black Canyon City, about an hour north of Phoenix. We were visiting family. It's an unimpressive town, but there are cows here that roam freely through people's yards. They're jumping over fences, they're in the road. So, if that's something that interests you, it is just off the highway. But continuing north from there, we reached Sedona. In Sedona, we were able to hike Cathedral Rock, which is what you're looking at right now. I would highly recommend it, although it is a short distance but can be challenging for people not used to steep slopes because at some points you had to use all fours to ascend comfortably. As we were leaving, a woman on the trailhead asked us if we thought her heels would be okay. To know what you're getting into with trails and to find which ones to go to, I would highly recommend All Trails. It's an app, it's a website where people share their experiences with trails, they rate them, they GPS track the route that they took on it, the distance, the difficulty, the elevation change, all that kind of stuff. So I would highly recommend that if you're looking for trails to go on. Next, we cut east along the I-40 toward Albuquerque, and roughly an hour from Sedona, we stopped at a old abandoned gas station off the highway. The gas station itself is pretty cool, covered in like cool graffiti and stuff, but if you turn to your 4 o'clock while you're facing the front of the station, you will see a unassuming looking dirt path. If you follow this path about 100 paces or so, in front of you will be an old stone house with like satanic markings inside, and below it to your right will be a cave. It's a little hard to find, that's why I'm giving this detail for it because we had a little trouble finding it, but in this cave, Navajo Indians murdered 42 Apaches at some point. The cave became known as the Apache Death Cave, so if that interests you, again, it's right off the highway, so quick stop. Continuing east on I-40, we reached the best part of our trip, Petrified Forest National Park. I didn't know about this park before we took this trip, but once I looked into it, I thought this is a crazy interesting place. Why have I not heard more about this park? I've been to plenty of other national and state parks, and to me, this is one of the best, like on par with Yosemite or Zion. As you drive into this like alien-looking landscape, you see extremely flat land punctuated by what look like miniature mountains. We pulled over and summited one of these. It felt great. It gave an excellent view of the park, and you can just do this anywhere. Pull over, explore a little, and then as you continue towards the end of the park, you reach the Rainbow Forest Loop. And this is where the landscape looks truly just archaic and so unique, and scattered throughout it is petrified wood, which is wood that was calcified over the course of hundreds of millions of years. It's a fascinating process that I can't fully explain, but I'll link a video in the description that explains it further. But it's just cool knowing that this wood that you see in the park could have been growing alongside dinosaurs, basically. So the park was very cool history, both geologically and just in general, so I would definitely recommend that. Continuing east again along I-40, we stayed in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The city itself is pretty unpleasant, actually, but everyone we spoke to was very nice to us. We had maybe the best diner experience ever there at Central Grill and Coffee House. Shout out to them. The owner came and spoke to us, gave us free samples of his dish, so that was a really nice experience. Kind of redeemed Albuquerque. From Albuquerque, we went north on I-25 towards Santa Fe. On the way, we visited Bandelier National Monument, which contains ancient Native American cliff dwellings, some of which are thousands of years old. From there, we went to Santa Fe proper and visited the Old Town, which was very charming. We were also able to hit the Sun Mountain Trail, which is just on the east end of the city. It's a 8,000 foot tall mountain, but it's not that hard to summit given the elevation of Santa Fe being so high, with a total elevation change of just over 700 feet. And that's about all we did in Santa Fe. There is plenty more to do in these cities, Santa Fe, Sedona, and at the end of the video, I'll be listing things that we didn't get a chance to see that we would have liked to have seen if we had more time there. A final note about Santa Fe, just outside the city, we were able to see Los Alamos, which is a town that is famous for hosting the people who made the nuclear bomb for the Manhattan Project. So, interesting little town. They've got little museums devoted to the history of it. I would definitely recommend that if you're a nuclear history fan. From this point in the trip, we had considered going north along Route 84 into southwest Colorado, and then dipping back down on Route 160 back towards Flagstaff and Phoenix. This route would have let us see a lot of things, chief among them Mesa Verde National Park, but we really wanted to see the gypsum sand dunes of White Sands National Park in south central New Mexico. So we got there on I-25 South. Because of some car troubles, we actually got there close to closing time, but it turned out perfect because we got to see the sunset over the dunes, and that was really nice. We stayed in Las Cruces, New Mexico after visiting White Sands, and I have to mention the hilariously designed motel we stayed at. We booked it last minute, but this place had a tropical themed indoor pool in the lobby surrounded by European style faux balconies. From Las Cruces, we followed I-10 west to Tucson. As far as major highways go, this one was pretty scenic. There were a lot of cool rock formations along the way, but not much to say about Tucson itself. It was a pretty average city, if not slightly below. We stayed just north of the university area, and we expected it to be one of the nicer, more gentrified areas, but it turned out to be a place you wouldn't want to walk around at night. We went just outside the city to the mountains surrounding it, looking for bighorn rams, which were grazing at the time. We didn't find any, but we did find Push Ridge Wilderness, which is what you're looking at right now. It was a beautiful area. We went on the Bug Spring Trail, which we would highly recommend if you're in the area. Heading north from Tucson, we finally returned to Phoenix. We're not very big fans of the city of Phoenix itself, I hate to say, but all along its outskirts are wonderful areas to hike and sightsee. The only one we were able to visit was the Hieroglyphic Trailhead, which is to the east of the city. It was a beautiful area with a lot of Sayuro cactuses lining dramatic rocky hills, and at the end of the trail there was a natural pool which was surrounded by ancient Native American hieroglyphs, which were still clearly visible despite all the tourists rubbing their sweaty hands all over them. So that sums up our trip. Again, here is the route that we took in its entirety. Now, I must mention that we could have spent a week in Sedona or Santa Fe alone. There is so much to do and see in these areas. They're some of the most naturally beautiful areas in the country. But we only had 9 days, and we wanted to see a slice of everything that these states had to offer. So I'm going to list the areas that we didn't get to see, but that we would have liked to have seen if we had more time. I'm going to keep my itinerary in the background as a spreadsheet for those curious how we managed our time exactly, driving times between destinations, things like that. First, the most famous site in the Southwest, the Grand Canyon. We had already been to the Grand Canyon. That's why we didn't go. I will say, if you are going to go to the Grand Canyon, I would recommend the North Rim over the South Rim. It is just much more scenic, better place in my opinion. It's a little more out of the way, but go for the North Rim if you can. In Sedona, I would recommend the Chapel of the Holy Cross. It's a very pretty church on a cliff that overlooks the city. The Merry-Go-Round, Devil's Bridge, Coconino National Forest, Pulaski Heritage Site, and the 7 Sacred Pools. In Santa Fe, there's the Rio Grande Gorge State Park, which offers a great view of the Rio Grande River, and the Valles Caldera National Preserve. Near White Sands National Park, you'll find Lincoln National Forest, which is amazing from what I've seen. Truth or Consequences is a town to the northwest of it that has hot springs, and if you look at a map of light pollution for the area, it is one of the lowest areas of light pollution in the country, so I'm sure it'd be great for stargazing. In Tucson, you have Sayuro National Park, Coronado National Forest, Madura Canyon, and the Cave of the Bells. And finally, Phoenix is not a very pretty city, but Frank Lloyd Wright architecture is scattered throughout the city, and that is definitely worth seeing. Tonto National Forest, of course, and the Mogollon Rim. We didn't get a chance to see that. So there you go, guys. That was our experience with Arizona and New Mexico. If you're planning a similar trip, I hope you find this helpful. Have a good one.